So now that we've examined the girl's magic, it's time to see the opposite end of the spectrum. Time to demo the Sprite's magic. Much as the girl fills the white mage role, the Sprite is more of the black mage type. Elemental magic for all the attacks you could need. Essentially, a lot of it comes down to various pretty ways to kill the enemy, but it's impressive nonetheless, and can make certain fights much easier. The first source of the Sprite's magic is Undine, the water elemental. Her power over water and ice gives the Sprite his first real taste of magic power. First up among Undine's spells is Freeze. Early on in the game, this is probably going to be your go-to magic attack. The effect is pretty simple, slamming the enemy with chunks of ice the size of your head. Quite nice, actually. The critical form of the attack just makes it all the more violent, striking the enemy with twice the number of hailstones. Such a satisfying sound, too. Next up we have a rather useful magic attack, Energy Absorb. Pretty much exactly what you'd expect, this one drains health from the enemy. However much damage the Sprite does to the enemy, that's how much health he'll regain. The critical form makes the attack look even more intimidating, resulting in a double spiral from each target. If you keep in mind you have this one, you don't have to heal the Sprite too much. It's just tough to remember this over Cure Water. Next up we have Acid Storm. This is one of the Sprite's few magic attacks that actually has a secondary effect. Not only does it strike the enemy with poisonous rain, but it also lowers their defenses, making this great for follow-up attacks. The critical form of Acid Storm doesn't look too terribly different, aside from the storm lasting a lot longer, and having a lot more rain involved. Next up, we have Gnome. Despite their rather shaky first encounter with each other, Gnome is happy to supply Earth Elemental spells for the Sprite. Smash things with rocks? Yes, please. First up, we have Earth Slide. Now, this is pretty much as basic an attack as you can get for Earth Element. Just drop boulders on the enemy. Simple, but effective. The critical for this one is just plain weird. Yep, that's right, smiley face, tongue out boulders. Yep. Next we get to what is naturally one of my favorite spells in the game, Gem Missile. Yes, we get to attack the enemy with shinies. Lovely. And the critical is even better. So many shinies! I love that attack. The final spell for Gnome, I'm not 100% sure what it even does. It's Speed Down. The thing is, all it says is that the enemy was tangled. They don't seem to really be any slower. It doesn't stop the enemy from using magic. So, yeah. All the critical really does is make the vines and roots a bit thicker. Doesn't really make it any clearer what exactly it's doing, though. If one takes the effect of speed up into consideration, maybe speed down is the opposite? That it reduces the target's hit and evade ratios? Now, when the enemy uses it on you, it actually physically slows you down, so I really don't know. Hailing from the Sprite's home village, next up is Sylphid, the air elemental. His dominion over wind magic will help the Sprite quite nicely. The first of Sylphid's spells is Thunderbolt. Why do games always mix up thunder and lightning anyway? Oh well. Either way, it is a pretty powerful magic attack, though somewhat expensive by the standards of attack magic. It does certainly get the job done, however. The critical makes the lightning all the more imposing, making thicker bolts and striking with 3 bolts instead of just 2. Fairly satisfying, that. Next up, we have Air Blast. This one sends 3 swirling slashes of air toward the enemy. The benefit is, it is fairly inexpensive. Not the most powerful spell, but good in a pinch. Just expecting bigger ones for the critical? Well, not quite. Surprise! Yes, we get big tornadoes. Sylphid's final spell is Silence. This one's rather interesting. It seems to be a complete mind screw to the enemy AI. When used on you, it reverses your controls. It seems like it basically does the same thing to the enemy. Wait, bunnies, come back! The critical version doesn't really seem to look too different, actually. One rather nice thing, though, is it does seem to prevent the enemy from using magic. So, that can be rather nice, especially around these blast-happy ducks. Now it's time for Salamando. These 3 flavors of hot magic will certainly make the enemy think twice. Let's see what we have here. The first of Salamando's spells is Fireball. With a fire elemental, you kinda have to expect this sort of thing to happen. This one throws out 3 fireballs at the enemies. Now, one thing worth noting, and this is the same with Air Blast, is if you only have 2 enemies on screen, one enemy will get hit by 2 instead of just 1, but it doesn't really do extra damage or anything. Now, when it goes critical, Fireball is quite surprising. Sending fireballs after your enemy not enough? Well, try summoning dragons. Yes, that's right, 1 fiery dragon for each enemy. Quite stylish, that. Next up we have Exploder. Somewhat expensive, but also pretty satisfying to use. This one just blasts your enemy apart. Sometimes it's just satisfying to make the enemy go boom with fire. Sadly, in this case, the critical just doesn't strike me quite as satisfying. It's still nice, don't get me wrong. Somehow I just prefer the more cartoonish blasts. Louder and just more satisfying to me. Finally, we have Lava Wave. This one's kind of the middle of the row as far as Salamando's attack magic goes. Time to attack the enemy with liquid hot magma. Fairly nice, that. The critical is definitely more impressive, though. Instead of just bubbling on the surface, we get some steady streams of lava. Very nice.